health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking into this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I'm your producer in the back, Jeremy Carr, here with your host in the front row, Heather Pierce. So, what are we doing today, Heather?
So today we're interviewing Sabrina Carlson. Well, I don't know if I call it an interview. It's more of a discussion.
We like conversations here.
Yes, we are conversating with Sabrina. She has a very, I would call it pretty rare autoimmune disease. Short word is AS. I'm going to screw this up, Jeremy. Ankylosing spondylitis. Thank you. AS for short. So she's going to talk about her journey with uncovering that she had this autoimmune disease and what she's done to treat it and to minimize the symptoms and how she's living with that. And she's like super smart about all of this. So
yeah, it's quite the road she's traveled to get there too. So
yeah, she's definitely got expert level status. So
yeah, there you go. Without further ado, here's our conversation with Sabrina Carlson about ankylosing spondylitis.
Hi, and welcome to the Healthcare Uprising podcast. Today, we've got Sabrina Carlson with us, a personal friend of mine, and she's here to talk about her journey with, oh my gosh, ankylosing spondylitis.
That's pretty good.
That's a big word. So welcome to the show, Sabrina. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Sabrina and I are friends too. So we just, I just determined that we've known each other for 12 years. So, which is pretty cool.
That's super cool. Yeah. I can't believe it's been that long, but it has.
I know. And, so we're going to hear Sabrina's story today with her journey with identifying, I guess more like uncovering and identifying your autoimmune condition, and then kind of what you've gone through since. I'm sure you'll talk about some of the trials and tribulations and the ups and the downs and all the things. And then we're going to, my life has been really crazy because I've been at the hospital for 5 days with my husband who fell off a roof. So I'm super unprepared for this. I don't normally go into these interviews without any questions set, but because I know you so well, I figure I can wing it. So
this is going to be like a round table almost.
Yeah. So we're going to wing it.
Great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
So Sabrina, feel free to give a little brief intro, share whatever you want, and then let's just jump into it and tell us kind of your story and what's going on with you.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, I have a couple of autoimmune diseases, but the one we're here to talk about today is ankylosing spondylitis. It is an autoimmune disease form of arthritis that specifically, in most cases, and it can present differently in different people, but in most cases, it will primarily attack the spine and it will tend to focus in on the SI joint. So that is where you tend to see pain most often with ankylosing spondylitis. In my case, I think it probably started way back when I was like 20 or 21. I had a really bad case of walking pneumonia that was misdiagnosed as bronchitis. I was given a bazillion rounds of antibiotics. And by bazillion, I mean, actually it was probably about 6, which is kind of a lot, like six rounds of antibiotics and a round of prednisone. Was still really, really sick. And yet no one ever ordered a chest x-ray until, which is kind of a different story, but I went to see like a naturopath and she's looking through my records and she's like, where's your chest x-ray? You should have one by now. I was like, I don't have one. So I think that's where the seed of it started. That's when I first started to notice that like discomfort in the SI joint. But it was not until years later, really, where I think it manifested into the full-blown disease that I had to figure out. So I had a bit of a flare after my son was born, coming up on 12 years now. But even that, I think the sort of fatigue and brain fog was more forward than the joint pain. So it was very easy to really pass that off as like postpartum, baby's not sleeping, he's crying all night, whatever, all
just
the stuff
adjusting to motherhood. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe postpartum mood stuff, whatever. In retrospect now, I do look back and I think it was probably an AS flare that I was dealing with at that time. But then it was in 2020, and I'm sure none of us were going through anything especially stressful in 2020 at all. Not at all. Not this girl. No. But yeah, I was having a very uniquely stressful time then for a variety of reasons. Lots of big life changes had happened for me, and I ended up in such a severe flare that I was in absolutely crippling pain. I can still remember to this day, and I know it was 2020 because I was like, it was like business on the top and party on the bottom. I was wearing shorts to go to my office, but with like a nice blouse. Because all my meetings were on Zoom. So I was shuffling into my office. Like I could barely walk. I was bent over. I was in so much pain.
I'm amazed you made
And
it
I had
in.
done everything. I went to orthopedist because of course my back hurts. So you'd think orthopedic doctor would be who can figure that out. Multiple orthopedists looked at me and went, they did, MRIs, they did x-rays and things like that. And they're like, I don't know, we don't see any like stuff out of place or any slip discs or anything. So I guess you're just existing while female and you're histrionic and we don't know what to say. Like you probably have
Sorry,
anxiety,
we
right?
can't help you. Move along.
Sorry, we can't help you and please go away. And all the things. And I even did all the hippie stuff I could think of. Like I hired a health coach and I got a personal trainer because obviously I've been working too much and I'm too stressed out. So I need to have a personal trainer. And like that didn't help. And that made it worse. And so I was doing everything I could think of, taking all the supplements, everything, and nothing was really working. And it wasn't until it was October then, I think of 21. And at that point, I was hanging on by a thread. Like I basically would go to work, did what I needed to do at work to get through the day, and then would just go home and collapse. I had nothing left. I had no
Mm,
energy. I would head straight to bed. No energy to play with my son. No energy to make dinner. Thankfully, I have a partner who's amazing and pretty much did everything at that time. And it was October 21 and I was actually homesick with the little C. That was the first time I had the vid and I
mhm.
was Googling like, can you take, um, is it safe to take NyQuil if you have, COVID? Because I just didn't know. Nobody knew anything back then. So I was trying to see
Right.
if that was okay to take. And on whatever health, I don't know if it was WebMD or something like that, but at the bottom, there's like, an article you might find interesting when your back pain isn't just back pain. And I was like, well, okay, like I got nothing
Hmm.
better to do. I'm sitting at home sick, so
Thanks,
let me pull this up.
internet.
Thanks, internet. Yeah. So I pull it up and it laid
Clickbait
out
actually
every
works sometimes.
symptom.
I guess so.
Yeah, it laid out every symptom. Every symptom I had, it was
Wow.
identical. And I was like, wow, okay. Um, and it explained it. And the first time I read it too, I was like, I'm not even sure how to pronounce that, right? Like I had to like, Google Translate or whatever, have somebody like just pronounce it for me. I had no idea what I was looking at. I'd never heard of it. Figured it must be
It
really
said
rare.
ankylosing spondylitis.
Ankylosing
So that
spondylitis.
was the first time you saw that word. Okay, got it.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
And
Clickbait on the internet. Who knew?
totally, it was. I diagnosed myself through clickbait on the internet. Like what?
I
It was
love it.
wild.
It's a crazy world.
It really
Crazy.
is.
Crazy. So,
Ah,
and actually I had a follow-up with one of the orthopedists like a few days after that. It was kind of the last time I was with an orthopedist. And I asked her, I said, hey, I came across this article. This is all of my symptoms. What do you think? And she looked at me and said to me, no, that's not possible because that disease only happens in Asian men,
Ugh,
what?
which is not true at all. Like I
Okay.
already knew that wasn't true, right, from my
that's never
own
really a thing.
researching, right? But she's like, no, that only happens in Asian men. I'm like,
Asian men.
That's so bizarre to like,
that's
that's so specific.
that's
So
so
specific.
specific. And it's like that's not even true, right? There
Uh-huh.
are very high instances in like Indian population,
Okay.
like from India.
Sure.
Like maybe
That is a
way more
very large
common.
population of AS patients, but
Yeah.
it is not exclusive.
Right, right.
Right.
Yeah.
So crazy. So then I was like, okay, cool. I need a rheumatologist. We have one in our town, as you may
Mm.
know. And
How
so
that wait?
yeah, it was 6 months for my first appointment,
Oof.
Holy crap.
which then got rescheduled because he changed his schedule. So it was
Oh,
actually 8 months. So
oh
then
my
it was
gosh.
almost about 10 months before official diagnosis. So
Wow.
me being me, I was not gonna wait around for that to happen. I was like, now that I know what it is. I don't even need the rheumatologist to confirm it. I know that's what I
Hmm.
have. I'm gonna look and see if there's anything specific out there in the world other than the medications he can prescribe to help with ankylosing spondylitis. And so that's kind of how my journey started, and that's how I actually started to feel better.
Can I
Wow.
ask a quick side question? You
Yeah.
said the SI joint is the main one. Is that the base of the spine?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it
where
is
the
the
spine goes into the
sacro.
hips.
Yep,
Oh.
sacroiliac joint. It's that little triangle like in
Hmm.
your pelvis.
So it's really extreme lower back pain is the main thing.
It is
I
typically
I
that
can
they're,
empathize with that.
yeah. For some people,
Wow.
they will get what's called peripheral spondyloarthritis, meaning it starts in the hands and feet, and that can often be initially thought as rheumatoid arthritis. But AS can present as peripheral first, but for most people, it's axial first, and then moves out to the hands and feet later on in the progression.
Oh, so as it progresses, it spreads through the body more. So
Yep,
everything
and
hurts.
it does. Yeah, everything hurts. Muscles hurt. It can also affect soft tissue. So it can, it's very common to
Mm.
get uveitis, which is an eye problem. Kidney disease is not uncommon, liver problems. It's also very closely connected with IBD, so Crohn's and colitis. There
Irritable
are
bowel disease
correct.
Disorder. Yeah.
or
It's
disorder. Yeah. Okay.
inflammatory bowel disorder. Yeah. So
Inflammatory. Thank you.
yes,
I'm
yeah.
like, it's one of those.
Yeah, and so in fact, there's so much crossover. Like when they've done studies on like autopsies on people who have AS, they've found evidence of Crohn's or colitis so often, and same in reverse that in Crohn's or colitis patients, they've after during autopsy found evidence of AS. They think it
Okay.
actually
Huh.
might be the same disease, but with different manifestations first. So there's a ton of
Huh.
crossover between the digestive
Yeah.
problems of IBD, which is also autoimmune
Hmm.
and ankylosing spondylitis.
Interesting.
Interesting. Look at us. Interesting.
Well, I mean, if
In
the symptoms
stereo.
always go together, then they're probably part of the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, so this that's the thing though, is the symptoms don't always go together.
Okay.
So some people will manifest both eventually, but for some people they'll manifest either the arthritis piece or the digestive piece, and they maybe don't notice the other one until then, like it's found during an autopsy. But it is really, really common for people to then develop, if they develop one, they'll develop the other at some point.
Interesting.
So I'm just trying to think timeline too, because I'm remembering a day, Sabrina, when we were in FLP together, and you were really, really vulnerable and open about your what was going on. And you literally broke down into. I'll never forget that moment when it was obviously such like a big thing for you. So that was more into like I want to say was that 2020? When did we graduate? Was it May 23? So we would
Hmm.
have started September 2022. So you were just getting in with a rheumatologist at that point then, if I'm thinking about the timeline, or you just had. So you didn't really have it under control at that point at all.
No, I really didn't. I mean, I was starting to figure some stuff out, but I had not really like, yeah, I had not really. I think at that point, I don't even know if I'd gotten in with the rheumatologist yet.
Hmm.
I think I was still just working on some of the diet and lifestyle pieces that I'd
Okay.
found from my Googling, from my Google University
Doing it all
degree
yourself. The DIY health diagnosis and
and treatment plan.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what did you do? Like what, I mean, you can talk about the medications too, but
Sure.
what you take, but I feel like a lot of it has been your food and like you said, your lifestyle, because you're
Hmm.
so active too. So that's the other
Oh,
thing.
we have a dog.
Yeah, it
Oh,
can be now. I couldn't then.
He's
I was actually in so much pain at that point that I couldn't even get my leg over a bicycle. So I couldn't,
oh,
like, I had been a big cyclist, really active. I couldn't do anything. I could barely walk. Um,
yeah.
so what
Oh,
I
that's
found,
awful.
so what I ended up doing, as many people do, right? Because in chronic illness communities, we talk to each other now. I know it's
Hmm.
like really shocking. So I joined Facebook groups as one does.
Cool.
And I
Of
was in
course.
like the big, Ankylosing Spondylitis Association, whatever group. And that was really hard because that group um, was very focused. Like it was a lot of venting, which is absolutely necessary in some ways when you are very sick. But that was not what my nervous system needed. I needed to find some stories of hope and some stories of people who've been
Mm,
able yes, you're never going to get better from autoimmune, like there's no cure, but I needed stories of people who'd found a way forward. And so one of the things I asked in that group was, hey, while I'm on this long wait for the rheumatologist, can anyone point me in the direction of some specific diet, lifestyle, hippie, alternative medicine stuff that I can do at home while I'm waiting? So someone then pointed me towards this group called the Low and No Starch No Starch Lifestyle for Ankylosing Spondylitis Facebook group. And that group was all focused on diet and lifestyle, and they actually didn't allow any conversation around medication at all. They're like, if you take
oh,
medication, that's your deal, but like that's
sure.
not what this group is for, right? So what they pointed me to was the work of a man named Dr. Embringer of King's College London, who back in, I want to say it was the late 80s, early 90s, he discovered something interesting with his AS patients who had been put on ketogenic diets for other things, maybe diabetes or epilepsy or something. But he had some of those patients that were put on ketogenic diets and their AS symptoms started to get better. And he thought, wow, this is really curious. So he starts looking into this. And what he developed was what he called the Klebsiella hypothesis. So Klebsiella pneumoniae is a bacteria. It lives in everyone's guts. It can become pathogenic, but it's not necessarily pathogenic in the right proportions. But what he was able to find through taking biopsies of the small intestine of people with AS and culturing it is that they had really high levels of Klebsiella, and that Klebsiella was releasing something, whether it was the biomimicry or a toxin or something that was actually passing through the small intestine into the bloodstream that was triggering the AS. So that was, at least that was his hypothesis, and his research seemed to bear out that was probably the mechanism. Now, there's been some argument that maybe it's he said it was mimicry, and maybe it's this other thing, toxin they release, whatever. At the end of the day, like, I'm not a scientist or a doctor. I don't really care why it works. I just want to feel better. but his work was really what he found was that the reason ketogenic diets worked was not so much the ketosis, but it was the lack of starches. So starch is the preferred food of Klebsiella. It will eat some other things like some sugars and stuff, but starch is the primary thing. And so to kind of beat back the populations, he was putting people on a starch-free diet. So basically, like, no
Oh.
pasta, no rice, no
Like,
bread.
don't provide the source, therefore
Correct.
it
Don't.
should go away
Yeah, it
or
should go away, or at
minimize.
least,
Stop feeding the problem.
Yeah.
Literally.
yeah, at least go down enough to where you can
Hmm.
manage it better.
Okay.
And you have to be really strict. So it's definitely, that's the hard thing for a lot of people, and why some people don't want to do the low starch or no starch diet is it's so strict. Like, I have to test medication. So if I get a new medication, I have to like crush it up and put iodine on it to see if it turns black, which means it's
Because it might
starchy.
have starch in it.
Correct.
Wow. So
Medic.
zero starch.
Wow.
I mean,
So
starch could
zero,
just be a
zero.
combining agent in
That's a
things.
surprise to me. Like,
The
I would.
cornstarch holds things together. Like, we
True.
use starch in things
Yeah.
like everything.
What are some like obvious things though? Like you were saying, pasta,
Yeah, pasta bread, rice, potatoes, even
potatoes.
things like winter squashes are too
Oh,
starchy.
okay.
Some foods will be starchy or not, depending on, like, apples is a good example. Depending on
Mm,
where it was picked, when it was picked, timing and all that, it can either be really starchy or very low starch. So
okay.
apples that are really ripe, that ripened on the tree, are not really starchy, but ones that are picked really super early, which many grocery store apples are, will
Mm-hmm.
tend to be very high in starches because they're picking them early so that they transport well. But that means the
Mm-hmm.
starch content's really high.
So the food part of this, the nutrition, low starch, no starch, that's like key, right? Like that's, would you say that's like your number one thing in
Uh-huh.
being well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it takes time. I mean, it's not something that's instant. Although
Mm.
I was fortunate, I got some positive, probably around 3 or 4 days in to a no starch diet. I had a reduction in pain that was very noticeable. It was a very noticeable
Wow.
Nice.
reduction in pain about 4 days in.
And yeah, I was going to ask just how effective is it, and do you combine it with medications in your own case?
Yeah.
And how bad, like compared to how bad it was at its worst, how good are you on the typical day now, and how, like how does it spike? And
Mhm.
I have so many questions I want to ask all at once.
Yeah, yeah. Ask away. I'll try to remember all the ones you just asked, but if I miss one, remind me. So it is extremely effective. Now I will say everyone's a little different. So one of the things I've noticed in that Facebook group is people have to troubleshoot. So some people react to certain nuts and seeds that normally aren't starchy, but for whatever reason, they get a reaction from that. Some people react really bad to eggs, and I think that has to do with how much damage there is in the gut. That's just my non-scientific hypothesis. I do great with eggs. Some people do horrible with dairy, which is not starchy by default. Some people I do fine with dairy, especially dairy from goats for whatever reason. So there's some trial and error. There's other foods that people sometimes have to avoid, but the no starch is really key. And I would say it took a good 6 to 8 months before I was at the point of like, okay, I can try like riding my bike again, right? So I got significant relief at about 4 days, but it took a really long time. And I would say over time, my general trend has been to continue to feel better and better. Um, how I feel now compared to back then, like I said, I was barely walking. I was bent over, I was shuffling, I was like an old lady, exhausted. I will never forget, it was, I want to say it was 8 or 9 months in when I realized I'd gone to work, worked all day, came home, played with my kid, made dinner, did a little laundry, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still fine. Like, what is happening right now? This is wow.
You
This
mark
is
that on the
amazing.
calendar.
Yeah,
That's
like,
really
wow, this is
impressive,
really cool.
actually.
Yeah.
And so I would say now, like, if my pain before was like a 9 out of 10, right? So like I'm not on the floor screaming, but I'm in constant tears in the eyes, borderline all the time pain. Um, there are days I have no pain at all. And there are, but I'd say the vast majority of the time I have maybe like a 1 out of 10. Like I know something's there, but it's very manageable. It's very minor. Actually, weirdly, the last thing to go seems to be my left knee because the left knee decided to join the party. And that was the last thing to join the party. So that's been
Okay.
now the last thing to unwind itself. But
Huh.
energy, what I'd say when I get flares, it's my energy that goes first, more so than my joints. And when my joints start to hurt, weirdly, my feet will get achy first, and then I'll notice it in the SI joint. Like I was taking this
Hmm.
electrolyte powder recently, and I, like a dope, didn't start to test it. And so it was a small enough
Oh,
amount. It
Mm.
wasn't like the first day I took it, I noticed, but I'd been taking it for a couple of weeks, and I just like, oh, my feet are really achy, and like I'm really tired, and what's going on? Like, am I getting sick? And I was like, oh crap! I started this. Let me test those electrolytes. I was like, no, they're turning black.
oh
Energy. So yes,
gosh.
I do get flares, but they're super minor compared to what I had. I mean, my worst flare now is nothing compared to my best. It's like a blip compared to my best day before.
Wow.
Well,
Um, as far as medications, I actually don't take any conventional rheumatological medications at this point.
No pharmaceuticals.
so it's all diet.
All
It's
diet,
just
all life
don't eat
style.
starch. Like
I
Wow.
that's
do
the
not
whole
eat
thing for
starch.
you.
It is.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep. And it
That
was,
intense of a thing and and you find that simple of a solution. That's actually wild.
Mm-hmm.
it is pretty wild, and it's something that I wish more people knew about. And I'm not here to tell anyone how they should treat their disease, right?
And
Like
like you said,
if
it
someone
doesn't
wants to
necessarily
like,
work for everybody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean it may not work for them like emotionally, right? It's hard. It's hard. Like let's be honest. Like changing your diet that drastically, that is really stinking hard. And in
If
the
I couldn't eat
beginning,
rice or potatoes ever again, like
yeah,
that's a major life shift for me. I eat
yeah,
just
yeah,
ridiculous amounts of rice,
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
especially.
That
And
is
yeah.
true.
and
Anytime I think anyone's making like a big nutritional change because of the not the risk. Uh, I can't think of the word, but it's like right there in your face and you want it. My
Oh yeah.
brain's not
The
functioning here.
temptations or yeah,
Temptation.
uh,
Thank you.
yeah,
Heather's had a long week.
Yeah,
yeah.
sit in the hospital for
It's
5 days. Your brain's kind of mushy.
I can't imagine
Um,
why you'd be brain mush right now.
yeah, yeah, but the temptation, like that's got to be hard, right? Like,
Oh, so hard. Potato
It's
chips, man.
it's not as much anymore. And I will
mhm,
say, so I had a different experience. I mean, yes, it's in the beginning, I think it's the hardest because you're having to give up things, especially things that are comforting, right? When you feel like
mhm.
crap, like you want to have a cake. You want to eat some
Right.
pasta. Like, nobody's like, I feel like
A
crap.
really
I think
good
I'd like
mac and
some
cheese.
sirloin
Yeah.
steak. Like nobody says I want a sirloin when I'm sad, like I want grilled cheese. I want mac and cheese, whatever. So you're giving
Right.
up this thing that you really enjoy and you don't feel better yet. So you still feel like crud for the first, however long. And now I'm punishing myself with this really restrictive diet. So the beginning, I think it was the hardest.
Mm,
Now it's not that bad because I know how awful I'll feel if I eat it and I know how much better
hmm.
I feel now.
Yeah.
But so I also have celiac. And I know we're not really here to talk about that, but I've kind of already gone through the having to change my diet drastically, and it sucks in the beginning, but then you get used to it and now you feel better. So I've been through that before. So I think in my case, in some ways, it was a little easier to keep my eye on the prize and just go, look, what's the word? And what I kept telling myself and what I tell new people to the diet is like, just know you can do anything for 6 months. You can do anything for
Hmm.
6 months, right? You can stick to a starch-free diet. You can stick to a ketogenic diet, whatever you want to do. You can do anything for 6 months. And if after 6 months and maybe, maybe tinkering to see if like, nuts or dairy or something's irritating you, but if you feel zero better and you've tested your medications, you've tested your supplement, you know you're not consuming starch, and after 6 months you feel zero better, okay. So all you did was give it up for 6 months. And if after 6 months you feel a lot better, you're not going to want to go back to eating rice and potato. You're going to be
Yeah.
okay.
You're going to
And
want
there
to
are
feel
some
better. Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people. So unlike celiac, I mean, celiac is like that is a permanent, lifelong, no gluten.
Hmm.
Unlike celiac, there are people in the Facebook group who have gone through very intensive, long periods of no starch and very intensive, like gut reset protocols, whether it's like taking antibiotics, different things, and they now can tolerate at least some starches. Like there's one gentleman in the group who's been around forever and ever. I think he's been doing this for 20 years, and he got himself to a place where now he can eat pretty much anything and he's okay.
Wow.
But that takes a really long time because Klebsiella is a stubborn little bugger. It like gets way
Hmm.
deep in the villi and deep in like the mucosal layer of the small intestine. So it's not as simple as like, take a round of antibiotics and we're good.
Hmm.
It's a tough one to wipe out, so it takes time. But there is hope. So there is hope for me, Jeremy. I might be able to join you on potatoes again one day. But in the meantime, I feel so much better. I don't really miss it.
Yeah.
And the fact you can do it without medication and without constant trips to a doctor, and it's, I mean, it's you got to and honestly, the way you're talking about it, it so reminds me of quitting smoking. I smoked cigarettes for 30 years. I haven't had one in a year and a half almost now.
Something like that.
And yeah, like once you get to the other side, and it's the same thing, those first 6 months are brutal. But once you get to the other side and you start seeing how much better you feel and how much you don't need that in your life and how much better off you are without it, it becomes easy and you just don't want it anymore. Like you literally just don't want it anymore. The starch is harder because you don't know where it's like hidden in so many things. Whereas the cigarette, I have to actually pick up a cigarette and light it very purposefully to go
Right.
there. But the mental concept behind it reminds me very much of that process. It's almost like quitting an addiction in a way. And when
Mhm.
you come out the other side, you're like, why didn't I do that 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or in your case, you just didn't know.
And yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And it is weird because like, I mean, that's a great analogy, right? Of like you get through the hard part and then you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better and want it. Um, but it is also it's a bit of a mind bend to get your head around it in the beginning because it's not as though starchy foods are necessarily bad for everyone, right? Like there's nothing wrong with potatoes if you don't have a problem with potatoes,
Right.
right.
right? So to be like, wait, can I really, is that allowed? Like, is this illegal? Like, no, you can't. It's okay. People have done it. People do it for long periods of time. So you really can do it. So, and the thing is I didn't set out necessarily to avoid medication. I set out to do what I could to help myself feel better in the interminable wait for an official diagnosis and medication. But as I got closer, so when I've had that first appointment, I still had enough pain that actually the rheumatologist looked at me like the way I was sitting and moving in the chair. He's like, well, you move like someone with spondyloarthritis. And I was
Huh,
like, oh, okay,
there you go.
cool. And so by the time we'd done like,
So glad
blood
you
work,
could see that.
yeah, he could see it like, just in the way I was sitting. Um, but by the time we'd done like his additional MRIs and blah blah blah, and then we had the thing, and then we have the medication talk. At that point, it was getting close to a year, and I was feeling so much better by then. At that point, that's when I didn't want to go on the meds. I was like, I don't know that I want to do this. Because there are, unfortunately, rheumatological medications, while they can be incredibly life-affirming for a lot of people, it can get their pain down, it can make them able to live life again. They are not effective for everyone. And in fact, my rheumatologist's words were that I had better luck with my symptom management than 60% of their patients do with medication alone,
Oh, wow.
and without the side effects. So
Hmm.
they don't actually relieve symptoms for everyone in the meds. And of course, they come with pretty significant side effects. They come with all kinds of warnings about like additional autoimmune diseases and
Oh,
cancer and all that
gosh.
kind of stuff. And again, that's not to say I'm telling anyone don't take the medication. If
Yeah.
that is what you need to do to like if you shorten your life by 15 years, but you can actually function for what time you have left, by all means, like do that. But I'd gotten so far on my own that actually even the rheumatologist said, I don't think you need the meds yet. And because the side effects are so significant, are you okay with delaying that? And I said, yeah, of course, that's because I was kind of like, uh-oh, like what do I do? Am I going to tell him no? Is he going to fire me as a patient? And then what if I need him again? But he was actually really great. And he even said, he's like, yeah, we know that this is like that autoimmune diseases are a gut microbiome issue. The problem is we just don't have a standardized protocol that we can give people to fix it. We
It's
just
just
don't
so
have it.
different.
Yeah,
It's
because
just,
everybody's
yeah,
physiology varies so much.
Hmm.
It's
yeah,
probably you got to find the right levels of things for everybody individually. There's a big task
Yeah.
in
right.
healthcare right there.
Yeah.
That's an AI application waiting to be written, actually.
Someone's probably working on it.
Yeah.
Probably.
Maybe,
So
maybe.
you're not in any pharmaceuticals, no medications. You've done it so far with nutrition. Is there anything else that you do? Because I know you were into yoga and things of that nature. Have you found any other kind of,
Oh yeah.
I don't
Oh
know,
yeah.
methods of treating it? And what are
For
they?
for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, as time goes on, at this point, I'm in the tinkering phase, right? I'm in the like, let's see if we can make it like 10% better and 10% better. And so definitely the diet was the big lever. But the little levers I found that work. Sauna for me has been really great.
Mm.
I feel really amazing with sauna. I know not everybody does. Um, any kind of
The
sauna actually is great. I love infrared, but
oh,
even
okay.
like a normal Finnish sauna, it helps. When I was in the
It's like a
worst pain,
dry sauna, the
yeah, a
heat
dry sauna, so
sauna.
not
Oh,
steam, like a dry
okay.
sauna. That's been really effective. And then just in general, the thing right now that I'm the most focused on and that I'm seeing big, big leaps and bounds as far as like my energy consistency, my health consistency are really what I guess I'd call like quantum biology. So like the
Hmm.
light, water, and magnetism aspect of health. So circadian biology. So I'm up every single morning. I walk the dog at sunrise, and that's really
Oh, I'm like,
important in
wait a minute,
making that.
explain this.
Yeah, yeah. So making sure I'm getting like the sun into my naked eyes as the sun rises as much as
Oh,
possible. It's not always possible because that's like right when we're taking kids to school, but I'm trying to get the
sure.
UVA and UVB rise to my, so sometimes I'm like, my kid's like, it's cold. I'm like, I don't care. The sunroof is up and we're getting sunshine, so like just getting those light signals to the brain. And then at night, like after nightfall, putting on the dorky glasses or like turning lights, I'm constantly turning lights off in the house. Like, come on, it's nighttime. We need to like get our circadian rhythm. So that's a really big thing. And then grounding, which I know is like really woo-woo, right? But I'm telling you,
Oh,
it's
oh, you're in
really
good company.
Oh, you're so in my ballpark right
Yeah,
now, actually.
Jeremy's like, oh, you're grounding. I can't wait to talk about
I
this.
barely wear
yeah,
shoes.
He
yeah,
never
yeah.
wears shoes.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yep.
Yeah.
awesome.
When I
Yeah, I
do, they're
do wear
like
shoes.
barefoot river shoes.
Yeah, I do wear shoes sometimes, but yeah, I like just like on my morning walks to the park with my dog, like as soon as I get to the grass, I take my shoes off, my feet are in the grass. Um, and so I'm doing that as much as I can, and it is a significant improvement. It's subtle, but
Hmm,
it's significant.
that's so
I
cool.
notice it. I notice it if I don't do it. I definitely
Uh,
notice it. So kind of like
Yeah.
if you're at all familiar with like, or if you're not, this might be a fun thing for you to dive into for future podcasts, but
Probably.
the whole quantum biology world is so fascinating because
Hmm,
it's essentially saying, hey, we've got this whole biochemical model of bodies and health, right? And that's the primary dogma is everything's biochemistry. But this quantum biology or whatever you want to call it, biophysical model is saying like, well, wait a minute, there's this whole other like physics part of being alive that we're completely missing. And so when biochemical pathways go wrong, is it really that we need to like add things like whether it's medications or supplements to like force a biochemical reaction? Or are we actually having a biophysical, a bio like whatever, light, water, and magnetism problem that's
hmm.
causing that biochemical pathway to go sideways in the first place?
Like quantum
So
energies. Yeah.
yes.
I'm
Yeah,
reading a book about that sort of thing right now, actually. The Heart's Code by Paul Pearsall. It's a great book.
absolutely. Ooh,
Hmm.
amazing. I'm gonna have to
You
look for
would be
that.
reading something like that, Jeremy.
Yeah. I just finished
It's part of a series of things I'm reading, actually.
yeah. Have you read The Body Electric?
I have it on my shelf. I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
That's the one. That's the
Yeah.
one. Bruno Becker. He um it's just fascinating, like the work that he did early in his career, like with the VA hospital and doing electrical signaling to like make bones heal and
Hmm.
studying like the regrowth of limbs in amphibians and then how he then expanded that into like what is potentially positive about bioelectrical energies on the human body and then also the potential negatives in our modern world and like, his work to try to work on that. Fascinating stuff.
Hmm.
Yes.
That
Cool.
does sound interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna read that
Yeah.
next, I think then.
Yeah.
I have
So,
a couple questions too I want to
yeah.
ask you as well. Just about autoimmune disease in general. I'm honestly not I'm not really knowledgeable about autoimmune disease. Like how is there any explanation? I mean, is this one genetic? Does anyone in your family like do you know like has had this condition or had it and didn't know it like from research? I'm just kind of curious how do these things show up? Like, because like no one in my family has ever had an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
Like, why?
So,
And then there's other families who like everyone has one.
yeah.
So,
So autoimmune, the prevailing kind of thought process right now is that autoimmune requires three things. In the same way that a fire requires fuel, ignition, and oxygen, autoimmune also requires three things. Genetic, there has to be a genetic component, right? There's some
oh,
predisposition.
okay.
There are lifestyle and or dietary, whatever, environmental, we'll call that environmental factors. And there's a triggering event. So the same way that a fire needs a spark, there's got to be there's something that was a trauma to the body that then kicks it into gear,
So
right?
for
So like
you, it was that thing when you were 26, maybe.
I think it was. That's my
Okay.
prediction is that it was that a severe illness. And now I don't know if it was like the excessive antibiotics that destroyed my gut because back then
Hmm.
like
Oh,
they didn't do
yeah.
anything. Like
Yeah.
they were just like, here, take all the antibiotics, and maybe they mentioned in passing to like eat some Yoplait so you didn't get a yeast infection. Like that was the most like that
Right.
they talked about repopulating your gut.
We weren't doing the
So,
kombucha thing yet.
yeah, kombucha wasn't a thing, sauerkraut, whatever. Acid, maybe
Yeah.
acidophilus was talked about a little bit, but it was more about like not getting a yeast infection, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, so I don't know if it was like the excessive antibiotics, the stress of it, the just my body being sick for so long, but whatever it was, that's when some of that SI joint pain first showed up and kind of fatigue that was really hard to kick.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was my triggering event. But it can be anything. It can be an infection, it can be a car accident, it can be an emotionally some people will say like it was when they went through a divorce or they watched their parents go through divorce or
Oh, like
they
even an emotional event.
Your gut
yes.
responds to that stuff in a big
So
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah.
Have you found like in like the people that you've met that have this condition that they've been able to most people have been able to identify what that was for them?
The people who've tried to, yes. I don't
Who've
know if
tried to.
everybody
Yeah.
does, right? Like I think for some people it's like, well, we don't really know why this happens and it sucks and I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like some people
Yeah,
just
we
aren't
all
that interested. Like I'm kind
right.
of a dork and I wanna figure this stuff out, but not
Mhm.
everyone's interested, so I'm sure not everyone's noticed, but those who have sought to kind of think about it, most people can go, oh yeah, I think my first symptom happened right after this traumatic thing and
Mm. Yeah.
whatever else. So yeah, I think that's pretty common.
Well,
And you know someone who over a long period of time was able to pretty much fix themselves of it too. So there is a path to healing there.
Yeah,
If you can
absolutely.
keep yourself on it, you know, very
strictly.
directly and for long enough. Like it's a tough road. I'm not going to deny you that, but it's nice that you have a road to travel to that, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's, like I said, that's why in the beginning, I might still be in that AS group kind of, but I like muted it because I just couldn't, like, I needed to hear that there were people who had walked any path, right? Any path at all and have been able to kind of have a full life. For me, I just was not ready to take in the sadness and like the heaviness of that. I needed to be able to, and then when I share my stories or when I share what's worked for me, that's why I do it too, is I want to be the person who can provide that story for someone who's where I was a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, again, like I mentioned, like I remember that one day in our LED class with the Flagstaff Leadership Program, and you stood up there and you were in tears and you were in pain and I was like, my heart broke for you. And so it's so amazing to see like just a complete 180 and you're like you're riding your bike again and you're hiking and you're doing all the things that you did before. You're just not eating any starch, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
amazing that it came down to that. Like
Yeah,
that's a pretty simple solve for such a
right.
serious thing.
And
I think I
obviously,
said that already, but it
the-
just blows my mind.
and it's not the only thing, right? Like you've explained, and everyone deals with it differently. I think that's always important. We talk a lot about that on the
Hmm.
show, talking about so many different things around healthcare is that, everyone's journey is so different, right? Like we're so unique, our physiology is so unique. I mean, our tolerances are and what we're willing to do and what we're not willing to do is really unique. So,
Yeah.
yeah, everyone's path looks a little bit different. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yours is pretty
And
inspiring.
oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
great.
Yeah.
It's a great story to
Yeah.
hear,
And
actually.
and there's people that when you talk about a low starch diet or starch free diet, they're like, that sounds awful. I'll take the meds, thank you. And the meds are
Mm,
working for them, and so
yeah.
when I say like, 40% of people the meds work, that's not a huge portion of what you'd think would be the case. But for those people, they're really happy with it, right? They're like,
Hmm.
I understand that this may have side effects, but an aspirin can have a side effect too, and I want to live my life, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
okay. Like that's great. Some people do take meds, and there biologics is what's typically it's an injectable medication, like Humira is a common one that will be
Oh,
used
okay.
for.
I've heard of that one.
And essentially it's a little different. I don't fully understand. It's kind of like a low dose chemotherapy, sort of. It's meant to suppress the immune system enough to try to get the symptoms to come down, but without completely wiping out your whole immune system. So that's kind of the idea with it is like it's
oh well.
immunosuppressive,
Yeah.
try to get things to calm down. Because autoimmune disease is at its core, it is your auto, meaning self, immunity.
Hmm.
So your body has, for whatever reason, identified a part of your own body as a foreign invader. And in this case, like it's, the tissue of the SI joint in the spine and eventually other joints. In the case of like lupus, it's multiple organs. Like lupus is a autoimmune where your soft organs are attacked first. But at the end of the day, it's your immune system thinking that parts of your own body are a foreign invader. So
That's
yeah.
interesting because there are things in our gut that the immune system is supposed to ignore because if it didn't, it would see them as an intruder. So maybe it's just the ignore switch gets turned off on that thing.
Hmm.
Is maybe
Right.
what
And
it
so
is.
the theory here is like there's some connection to SIBO, so small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and then the increased intestinal permeability. So, kind of in like the online space, they would call it leaky gut, which of course is
Oh,
not
yeah.
the
I've heard that term.
not a
Okay.
real diagnosis,
Putting
but
too much stuff back into the blood kind of thing.
exactly. But when the epithelial cells are too big, if that space is too big, which can happen if you're sensitive to gluten, it can happen for lots of reasons. If that space becomes damaged or that opens, there basically are larger particles of protein that can get through into the bloodstream that then triggers an immune response. And so, with the molecular mimicry idea that Embringer had, he was thinking it was actually Klebsiella bacteria itself getting through into the bloodstream, and that there is a genetic component of our joints that look a lot like Klebsiella, and that's why. So it was like we're constantly fighting this battle of this Klebsiella that's getting through the gut right into the bloodstream, but it just never winning the battle. And then it just kicks into overdrive, and then anything that looks anything like this, it's just going to town on it, right? So that was his theory. Again, some people now say, well, maybe it's not mimicry, maybe it's actually this other toxin that they create that gets into the bloodstream. But that's kind of the idea is that there's some damage to the gut in some case. And I do know, and this is not controversial, in terms of like, the hippie medicine versus the Western
Yeah.
medicine. But in every autoimmune disease in which the connection has been studied, increased intestinal permeability has been found to be prerequisite. So not just that it was present, but it was actually found to be a prerequisite to develop an autoimmune disease. So there's
Hmm.
something going on with the gut health, with
Yeah.
autoimmune disease that tends to be triggering in some way, but you know what that what that is or kind of what's the upstream, like why that, I think is still they're trying to figure out.
Gosh,
Hmm.
so you talk like you're like a doctor. It's so crazy the amount of information that you are just like throwing out. You're like legit expert level, Sabrina. So,
Well, you get to
Well, I
track your
have
own
ADHD and
diagnosis
an
like
internet
that.
connection,
oh,
so
okay.
Yeah.
You are
So if
no,
I get,
it's
if you, I'm like a dog with a bone. If you set me to figure something out, Jason actually laughed one time because he was like, I was trying to figure something out. It was like really early in this whole process. And like, I went into the bathroom with my phone for like 5 minutes. And I come out and I was like, oh, and by the way, I figured out that it's this and this and this and this. He's like, did you just like figure that out in 5 minutes in the bathroom? It's like,
you're like, yes,
yeah,
I did
I
actually.
actually did.
Very
Yeah,
efficient
thank
use of
you.
time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great.
well, and I want to mention too, as we begin to wrap up here too, is that you have an Instagram page, and if you're on TikTok, it's because I'm not on TikTok, but I do watch your videos on your Instagram page that are really fun, and you talk about your low starch diet and all that kind of stuff. So I want to make sure that you share that so that anyone listening who has the same autoimmune condition or knows someone who does, they should share that page so that
Ankylosing spondylitis.
yeah, isn't it Ankylosaurus or something?
Yeah, it's Ankylosaurus_adventures.
Okay.
Um, because my
Ankylosing.
son says his mom's an ankylosaurus.
Which is a
Um,
dinosaur, but
yeah,
That's
it's
an
just a
actual
dinosaur,
real
and I have a
it
dinosaur.
is.
costume.
I didn't. Yeah.
I have a Halloween costume of an ankylosaurus, because that's way cuter than autoimmune disease.
I
Yeah,
love it.
Ankylosaurus_adventures. Because I kind of the adventures part is like I wanted to be able to talk about like getting back to doing the things I love, right? So going out to adventure. So yes, I haven't actually been doing much the last few weeks just because I've had a lot going on in my personal life, but I do enjoy that. I post as much as I can. I mean, it's just a side project. It's not like a job or
Yeah,
anything. So I just try to post there and be supportive to the community whenever I can.
I love it. It's fun.
Cool.
Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to share before we say goodbye, or do we think we covered all the big points?
I think the last thought I'd leave if for somebody if you have AS or any other painful autoimmune condition is that just know that there is more hope than you've probably been told. There is more hope. There's so much hope out there. Seek out other people who you're going to have to actively seek it out, but go find other people who've been through where you are and have come out the other side, and have good stories to tell because there probably is more that you can do or more you have control over than you think.
Awesome. That's a great note to end on. And I think, we have to be our best advocate, right? Or advocate for those that you love. So definitely not a uncommon thread here on the show. So patient advocacy, self-advocacy is definitely important. So
Yeah, and the whole thing. I almost feel like we're looking at the future of America, where everyone is going to be like Sabrina here, and you're going to have to figure out your own diagnosis and be your own doctor in a way, and become an expert on your own condition, and then go to the doctor and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on. Here's what I need."
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that's really how it seems like American healthcare is going. So
yeah.
this is almost like a look into the future.
It's kind of I'm here for it. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, Sabrina, thank you so much for coming on. I've learned so much. Um,
Yeah.
and I now know what the reason is behind immuno compromised people where it starts from, right? Like all of these different
It's all in the gut.
it's all in the gut. So clearly we have issue with food in this country or the world for that
How do
matter.
we stack up against the world? Do you know? Is this like autoimmune disease in America as compared to the rest of the world? Do we have,
Um,
does anyone
Autoimmune
happen
disease
to know stats on that?
overall is higher in the developed world. I would not
Okay.
say just in the US. It is higher over on the developed world
Okay.
for the most part, although there is a
Hmm.
somewhat higher incidence in the Maasai people of Africa than in other African tribes and groups for whatever reason. I
Interesting.
don't know why.
So
Definitely done your homework.
that could be a
Yeah.
genetic predisposition.
Maybe.
Yeah, there's some
And if the
genetic
developed world
predisposition
has it
for sure.
worse, that it's maybe a combination of stress and processed food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so many factors. I don't think it's any one thing. I think the more reductive we try to make it, the further we get from the
True.
truth.
True.
Yeah.
I just like to cause trouble.
Yep. Yes, he does.
Oh, that's
All
okay.
right. Well,
I'll cause trouble with you. I'll cause trouble with you.
good trouble, right?
Good
Good
trouble.
trouble.
That's
Good
right. We're gonna
trouble.
make some good
Awesome.
trouble.
All right, let's get into some good trouble. Thank you, Sabrina, so much for coming
Thanks,
on.
you
This has
guys.
been awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thanks for joining us on the Healthcare Uprising. Make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons before you go, and take a moment to think of a friend and hit that share button. You can find us on all the major audio platforms, and we've got video on YouTube and Patreon, patreon.com/healthcareuprising, if you want to watch us in action.
You can also find us on social media on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Healthcare Uprising to find us. And if you're a new company or a creator with a cool new product for the healthcare space, or if you're someone with a personal healthcare journey and you'd like to share it with us here at The Uprising, please email us at healthcareuprising@gmail.com and we'll get back to you about coming on the show. That's all for this dose of Healthcare Uprising. Till the next time, keep looking for the good in the world, because sometimes it's where you least expect it.
This has been a Shut Up production.
Shut up!